Goldeneye 007 is a first-person shoot-'em-up for the Nintendo 64, based off the hugely successful 1995 movie which saw a new actor, Pierce Brosnan, take on the mantle of James Bond in an attempt to resurrect the franchise, which was looking extremely unlikely. Timothy Dalton, who having played Bond in the last two movies, 1987's The Living Daylights and 1989's License to Kill, refused to return to the role for a third time. According to an interview conducted by George Smith for The Express Online in 2018, Dalton explained his reasons why. These being that he was firstly asked to come back for Goldeneye and wanted to combine his previous two films' experiences and put these energies into making a final appearance as 007. He was informed by the producer of the Bond franchise, Cubby Broccoli, that if he was going to be Bond, he would have to do at least 4 or 5 more films. Dalton felt that this would be just too long to play the character and would take him the rest of his acting career. So the role was ultimately given to Pierce Brosnan, who initially was asked to take over from Roger Moore after 1985's A View to a Kill. However, due to contractual obligations Brosnan had with American TV series Remington Steele, he had to turn it down, and so Dalton took the reins and then decided not to return in 1995. Brosnan was finally finished in America by this time and free to play James Bond. And so, with a stellar cast of actors including Dame Judi Dench, Desmond Llewellyn, Robbie Coltrane, Sean Bean, Famke Janssen, Alan Cummings, Gottfried John and a host of others, a gripping plot involving the use of a deadly space satellite called Goldeneye capable of destroying anything on Earth, and some spectacular special effects, the movie went on to gross $352,194,034 worldwide, making it a financial and critical success and reintroduced James Bond to the world. So it was only natural that a video game would be in the works and the reins would go to Rareware Studios, who were asked by Nintendo if they would be interested in making a game based off of the movie. Initially most of Rare's staff there were not interested and turned it down. Martin Hollis, however, was, and asked if he could have a go at making a game based off of the movie. Due to the success Rare had with the Donkey Kong Country games on the Super Nintendo, the initial idea was to make a game in that style for that system, which would have been a 2D platformer created using Maya, which was the silicone graphical technology used to make Rare's impressive SNES games. However, Nintendo was set to release the Nintendo 64, which at the time was going to be called the Ultra 64, so Hollis and a small team at Rare set about trying to create a game for this new system. The problems were that most of the team assigned to work on Goldeneye had graduated from university and had the qualifications, but had never actually made a video game before. Also, no one at Rare had any access to the Nintendo 64's full hardware or specs at the time, and so if they were going to make this epic game, they would have to do the best that they could, and hope that this new console would be able to handle this ambitious new game. The team had been very inspired and impressed with Sega's Virtual Cop games, in which the protagonist shoots in a first-person viewpoint, whilst the game moves them about automatically. Not only is that game deeply addictive, but it forces you to speed up reaction times as you try and get further and further through the game without taking too much damage. It was ultimately decided to try and make the game a free-roaming first-person shooter in the same vein as Doom or Quake. This game, however, wouldn't emulate the game styles of those two legendary games too much, so the levels would be built around Bond having multiple objectives to achieve using stealth, killing enemies, but also being very smart about it, and Rare had to ensure that this game lives up to the success of the movie. Now this was a bold ambition because a lot of movie licensed games tended to be quickly rushed out to coincide with the release date of the film. Often they would be really bad or even have nothing to do with the movie it was based on. As the film was being made in 1995, Rare visited the Goldeneye set and were granted permission to take photos of the sets in order to build each individual level around key scenes that occur in the film. They also watched a ton of Bond films to try and add in gadgets, ideas or weapons that would really add to this new Bond game. The game took 2 years to make, and as I mentioned at the start, it was released just months before Tomorrow Never Dies was set to hit cinemas. This was one example of developers really putting their heart and soul and believing in the project, as Nintendo and MGM had advised Rare to pull the plug very late on when they learned how violent the game was going to be. So now it's time to look at Goldeneye 007 for the N64 in the most in-depth review I've ever done, so grab your vodka martinis and let's get started. Gameplay. Goldeneye 007 is a first-person shoot 'em up in which the player assumes the role of legendary MI6 secret agent James Bond as he blasts his way through 18 levels which all follow the plot of the movie for the most part. I say that because obviously Goldeneye does have a few violent scenes, and so Rare had to change a few things in order to appease the ERSB ratings. This worked out in their favour because some of the changes work in the game quite well, such as Bond meeting Natalia for the first time not in the Tiger helicopter but in a jail cell in Severnaya. Also, when Bond is being interrogated at the archives, Defence Minister Mishkin does not get shot by Umrov and isn't even present in the room. You meet him on harder difficulty settings in order to get the helicopter's flight recorder, which proves that Umrov stole the Goldeneye weapon and betrayed his country. James Bond starts each mission with an MI6 brief which outlines A. where he is in the world, B. what his objectives are, C. hints on how to achieve certain tasks, and D. occasionally what gadgets he has been assigned to help him. You get written briefings from M, who advises you on what you need to do, Q, who gives Bond his gadgets and how to use them, and of course some small snippets from Moneypenny, which contains more than a few innuendos. Note that there are 3 difficulty settings available to Bond at this time: Agent, Secret Agent and 00 Agent. The harder the difficulty, the more objectives Bond must complete, and the less health he has, and the enemies start to become super accurate and extremely aggressive. For a mission to be a success, Bond must complete each objective, which varies from destroying enemy surveillance equipment, opening safes, eliminating or even protecting key characters in the game, etc. If he fails to do just one incorrectly or runs out of health, gets shot to death, then the mission is a failure and he can't complete the level and must restart the mission. Let me tell you, this is one of those games that must be played almost perfectly in order to beat it. Again, running around like Doom, Guy or Turok shooting enemies all the time will only end up in disaster, and it took me a long time to realise you can't always play the game like that. As Bond makes his way through a mission, he will encounter enemy soldiers who must either be eliminated or avoided completely. You see, this game forces you to try and think like James Bond. Yes, there are times when Bond may have no choice but to shoot waves of baddies, but you must also strike a balance between doing it smartly and safely. In some cases, not shooting certain baddies works in Bond's favour and may well be the solution to a tough stage. This also must be in combination with Bond's choice of weapon. Most of the time he is equipped with a PP7 silencer, which will allow him to take out baddies quickly and silently, and this will draw the least amount of attention. However, once he gets his hands on the more noisier weapons, the KF7s, the clubs, grenade launchers and the like, then this can make missions slightly tougher, as more soldiers will hear the commotion Bond is making and will race to try and wipe him out. So there's a greater responsibility on the player to try and figure out for themselves the best course of action and the most appropriate way to get through each mission. The plot firstly has James Bond assigned with the task of visiting the Arkhangelsk chemical facility in the Soviet Union and successfully blowing it up. In the movie, it starts with Bond simply running to bungee jump down the dam and then lasering through an air vent. However, Rare wanted to add in an introductory level where we find out how Bond gets to that point. And so in the first level, he must shoot his way through several soldiers and invade the towers in order to do some computer hacking. Once this is done, he can then bungee jump off the dam. After finally getting inside the facility, Bond is told that he must meet up with 006, Alec Trevelyan, who will be assisting him with this mission. James meets him in the room with all the gas tanks towards the end of the stage and places explosive mines on them in order to blow up the whole facility. As the two are about to make their escape, an alarm trips and soldiers start to pour into the room along with their leader General Arkady Umarov, who holds Trevelyan at gunpoint and demands that Bond come out from hiding. Trevelyan yells at Bond to finish the job whilst Umarov coldly shoots him. Bond then blows the tanks and rushes out of the room as poisonous gas starts to escape and build up. After fighting his way through a runway and finding a plane, James escapes whilst the tanks blow up the facility. Now we cut to 9 years later, where MI6 has learnt that a space weapon in the form of a satellite that can wipe out anything on Earth has been stolen by an evil crime syndicate called Janus. M wants Bond to find out who they are, where the Goldeneye satellite is, why they stole it, and has orders to prevent them from firing the weapon at all costs. Every mission in Goldeneye completed brings Bond a step closer to unmasking Janus and trying to stop the weapon from being fired. However, this also means that the challenges start to intensify and in some cases must be completed very carefully, as certain objectives become an almost Herculean task. Yes, protecting Natalia in the control mission on 00 Agent mode, I'm talking about you. You will have to successfully complete each mission and the game will finish once the final level has been beaten and the main villain has been killed at Bond's hands or even his own, and more on that later. To really amp up the player's adrenaline, some missions must be done within a certain time limit, otherwise the mission is failed. The most stressful in my opinion is the silo on 00 Agent mode, in which Bond must complete multiple mission objectives which include planting plastic explosives in certain rooms, collecting telemetric data, photographing a satellite, collecting circuit boards and keycards, and also dealing with a massive onslaught of guards. There is also the streets level where Bond gets to chase Umarov in a tank. Now on 00 Agent mode this is a piece of cake. But on Secret and 00 Agent, you have to find Valentin Zukovsky, who will manage to delay Natalia's kidnappers once you are able to speak to him. However, the streets of St. Petersburg are crawling with soldiers all sporting explosive weapons and have the ability to wipe out Bond in a matter of seconds if you are not careful. Another example of Rare expanding the Goldeneye storyline comes into play in the frigate stage. Remember that bit in the movie where Bond is trying to stop the Black Tiger helicopter from being stolen by Zenuanitop? Well, you get to go on board the frigate Lafayette in Monte Carlo and plant a tracker bug on the Tiger, rescue some hostages and even disarm some bombs. Even on the hardest difficulty setting, this mission is a ton of fun and forces you to try and adopt sound strategies to try and save the hostages. The game will let you off if one dies, but any more than that and you fail the mission objectives. This game also has a ton of weapons for James to use throughout the game, and although you can have lots of fun blowing up enemies with rockets and grenade launchers, you will also need to ensure that you conserve ammunition, as later missions require a lot more thought, and although you can pick up ammo from enemies you have killed, it is entirely possible to run out if you choose to use too much, and this can make you extremely vulnerable to enemy fire. Also, certain missions may again advise you just to use stealth and to take out cameras and alarms to ensure Bond isn't seen. If he is caught on camera, then the special forces are called to your location, and these guys take more hits than any other enemy and can even spawn infinitely sometimes, particularly on the second bunker level. Trust me, if you are seen by any of the cameras here, it's impossible to finish the mission as these guys just keep coming. James Bond's health is represented by a series of bars on his watch. It goes from red to orange to yellow depending on how many times Bond is hit. You would think that it would be the other way round, but if too much damage is incurred then Bond will die. There are no health pickups lying around, but some of the levels do include some body armour. Picking this up gives Bond an extra set of blue bars on the right hand side of his health. This means that his main health bar won't be affected by damage until Bond takes enough hits for the body armour to wear off. On Agent mode, the game is extremely generous and enemy bullets won't do too much damage. However, once you play on the higher difficulty modes, the effects of gunfire are much stronger and you won't last too long, which is why the game encourages you to play it extremely carefully. The game does also have a few boss encounters, such as Zenuanitop in the jungle, although this time she won't wrap her thighs around Bond. She can be one tough cookie to beat as she appears at this point here as Bond and Natalia try to cross the bridge in the Cuban jungle. I'm trying to get Xenia to spawn. Sometimes she'll spawn when you're right on it, sometimes she won't. There we go, right, this is it now. Right, here we go. I'm going to try and, like, if you're not expecting her, she will take you by surprise and rush across the bridge. Now she's armed with a grenade launcher and an RCP-90 rapid fire gun. One thing that works in your favour, and you may not think so, is the fact that she will only come after Bond. Occasionally, Natalia, however, will be able to kill her instantly as Xenia tries to cross the bridge, and if this happens it will save you a truckload of stress and conserve a lot of help. And may even mean you'll be able to complete the stage with most of your health intact. Okay, so let's talk about the most difficult stage in the game, which is the control centre. I certainly don't want to gloss over this level, and just because I've beat it on 00 Agent, it's no walk in the park and may well be the hardest level in video game history. So why is it so hard, you ask? Well, let's break it down. Your mission objectives are: you have to protect Natalia, disable the Goldeneye satellite and destroy some armoured mainframes. Sounds simple, doesn't it? You start the level in an elevator, and before you know it, drone guns are dotted around the first area of the stage, as well as soldiers. Now, as difficult as this seems, it can be overcome with practice once you learn the positions of the drone guns. You can slowly strafe and blow them up without them hitting you, as long as you are not in their direct line of vision. Once this is done and the soldiers are dead, Natalia then runs to a computer monitor by a locked blast door and manages to get a door into the centre open by hacking in. It is here where you must try not to get hit too much, as the guards in the room adjacent to the corridor are strategically placed and can throw multiple grenades, which will cause Bond massive damage if he is in their path. Again, once you are aware of this, then if you listen out for a very distinct sound, then you can catch them throwing one, so be sure to get as far away as you can. Upon occasion though, the guards have been known to blow themselves up, which is not only hilarious but is to your advantage. Ensure that you have also killed the guards at the end of the corridor and collect the remote mines, which are crucial for destroying the armoured mainframes you will soon encounter. Once you have killed a bunch more soldiers, you will gain access to the main control room, where you will bump into Boris Grishenko, who tries to pull a gun on you. Whatever you do, don't kill him, as although he has betrayed not only his country and Natalia, who worked with him, but Natalia will take this very personally and she will refuse to help you, and the mission will soon be over. Okay, now you need to plant the remote mines on the mainframes at the bottom of the room, and then ensure you climb the stairs to the top and get 2 more mainframes, ensuring you kill the soldiers. Now, I would recommend getting the 5th mainframe by heading back down the stairs and opening this door at the end. However, be very careful because this room contains 4 more drone guns and a few more soldiers. I would recommend getting rid of the soldiers first, if you can, and then take out the drone guns very carefully. Remember, do not get into their line of sight, as they will rip into your health and you may not have enough to complete the mission with. The first 2 drone guns are directly in front on the ceiling. The other 2 are on either sides of the first 2 alcoves, so simply peek around the first corner and you can take them out. Just don't go too far as the drone guns will see you. Once this is done, go to the far end of the room and place the remote mine on the mainframe. Now you can choose to blow the mainframes up now, but remember there is still 1 more to find. You will only find this once Natalia has been protected. Okay. Now comes the hardest part in the entire game. You must let Natalia in through this door here, and she will rush into the main control room and try to prevent the Goldeneye satellite from firing on London. Now you have to protect her while she is doing this by shooting guards as they come down from either set of stairs. This is made all the more difficult because the pattern of soldiers that you encounter are sometimes random. I've no idea why this is, but from research I have conducted, many players say that it is something to do with the amount of health Bond has, so if he has only a few bars then only a small number will appear. If he has a lot of health then more soldiers will pile into the room. Now I prefer having loads of health, as personally I need enough to not only protect Natalia but to also destroy that final mainframe and escape the level. Okay, so many players have different strategies about where to stand in the room. I prefer putting Bonds back against the black glass in this position here and strafing left and right every few seconds. Now once Natalia starts tapping away at the keyboard, an alarm will suddenly go off. Now again, the enemy pattern is random, but the idea is to destroy the many enemies trying to shoot Bond and Natalia. Now the soldiers with berets on, looking a lot like Kevin Rowland from Dexy's Midnight Runners, will try and shoot Natalia, while the ordinary soldiers will try to shoot Bond. You need to keep sweeping left and right to shoot the soldiers. Now I know that this is hard, but the keys to victory are firstly accurate aiming. This means whatever you do, don't just fire carelessly at the enemies, use the red crosshairs by using L and R, and shoot quickly. If you don't do this then Bond will get shot and possibly overrun with soldiers. If this occurs then you will be so busy dealing with them, it can be easy to forget about Natalia, and shooting her assassins will be much tougher. If Bond takes rapid fire then he will get knocked back and bounced around the room like a pinball, which is why accuracy is essential here. Secondly, if you see a guard with a berry on, shoot him straight away. If you don't, he will fire at Natalia, weaken her, and if not dealt with, will kill her outright and you will have to do the whole mission again. Additionally, when you hear glass smashing, it's one of the beret guards who appear. Now I know what you're thinking, this whole sequence is impossible, it just can't be done. I thought so too, however. I did spend many hours and would get my ass handed to me time and time again. However, once I got good with the aiming, it got slightly easier. Anyway, you must protect Natalia until she has stopped the Goldeneye. I think it's about 5 minutes or so. Once you see the objective completed on screen, do not celebrate yet. More soldiers rush into the room to try to shoot her, so just protect her as she runs back up the stairs, and she will say she will meet you in the elevator. Now you need to hurry up here and open this blast door. You need to destroy the soldier inside and the final mainframe. Now, go through this door and close it behind you. This will ensure that the infinite waves of soldiers will not follow you into this final section. If you have a lot of health you can run for the elevator or take out the guards carefully. I did this mission just as I was about to bite the bullet and it took me many hours, lots of cups of tea and therapy. No joke, I was actually talking about how hard this mission was to everyone I could find and didn't think I had the ability to beat it. If you can beat this level on 00 Agent, consider yourself a Goldeneye legend. I know that there's probably advice that you have already read upon already, but believe me, it can be done. The final level is where things can get extremely tricky. After pursuing Alec Trevelyan throughout most of the game, Bond now has to chase the former MI6 agent through the antenna cradle stage in order to stop him activating the Goldeneye weapon for a final attack. On Agent and Secret Agent this is not too bad, a little tricky but doable, but on 00 Agent it becomes relentlessly hard as the infinitely spawning guards are more accurate and do more damage. Not only must Bond destroy the console, Alec is just activated, but Trevelyan himself must be shot multiple times and again chased until he says finish the job James. Now everyone has their own strategy here. One of the most useful I found was just to peek around the balcony so you can just make him out and fire him. And if you do this he runs back and forth between the two huts. The problem is however that the guards make shooting him more difficult and I could only do this a few times before I was killed. Yes, Alec the Sly Fox sometimes throws a grenade at you as you go after him and it's easy to die from this. However, there is an easy way to kill Alec which will take away a lot of the frustration this level has. Now what you need to do is not follow Trevelyan into the hut. Instead turn around and ensuring you are wary of the oncoming guards, head into this hut here. I know what you're thinking, what about the console? I need to destroy it otherwise the timer will tick down and I'll fail the mission. Trust me guys, run down to the bottom of the cradle and go directly underneath the hut that Trevelyan has gone into. Stand about here, shoot any oncoming guards that come for Bond. Now for whatever reason, Trevelyan thinks you are facing him and will try and throw grenades, when really you are below him. In some cases he will kill himself, meaning that Objective B, settle the score, will be completed before Objective A. On a very rare occasion, Trevelyan will also destroy the console with his grenades for you by accident, so provided you have enough health, once he has been killed, go up to the hut where Trevelyan was, and if he hasn't destroyed the console, shoot the console yourself. However, you need to be mindful of the 2 drone guns that are in the room. Now turn around and go back down to finish the level and the game. Congratulations, the Janus leader has saved the world for you and Bond gets to kiss Natalia. Completing the game on double agent mode is a true gaming achievement and it took me many hours and failed attempts, but if I can do it then so can you. After finishing the main campaign, you now have access to 2 bonus levels based on 2 Roger Moore movies. There's the Aztec level in which Bond must infiltrate the Drax Corporation's secret base in order to interfere with the shuttle launch, and the Egyptian stage where a golden gun must be located to finally put an end to Baron Samedi. Goldeneye is one of the best first person shooters ever made, but it does have a few issues which can spoil the gameplay somewhat occasionally. Firstly, when there are 2 enemies on screen, the game struggles to cope and the frame rate drops considerably. This means that if Bond is trying to get away or shoot, this can be delayed, meaning that shots will be slow. Now, given that the enemies are extremely accurate on higher difficulty settings, they won't miss and this can lead to cheap shots. Also, Bond gets knocked back when he gets shot, and when multiple soldiers are all trying to grab a piece of him, they can bounce him around again like a pinball, and means that Bond will be unable to defend himself at certain times. I had to restart the mission several times because some stages actually have infinite soldiers which keep spawning. Now, I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing, because in some missions like the Bunker 2 for example, stealth is essential, and if you are seen by a camera, then the Siberian guards try to take you down. And they don't stop coming no matter how many you mow down. I take issue because there are times when the game just decides to throw them at you no matter how careful you are, or even if you have met certain mission requirements. Now, I do feel that having to protect Natalia was largely an unfair and unbalanced objective because of this. Now, as I've explained, when Natalia enters the control room to start trying to hack into the computers to stop the Goldeneye from firing, the game assigns a random pack of soldiers for Bond to dispatch. Now, that's fair enough and makes for a good challenge. The problem lies in the fact that when you finally manage to protect her and get the objective complete, you are led to believe that Natalia will head off to the surface unharmed. However, more soldiers just keep pouring in, and you must know that you have to hang on for a few more seconds to mow down a few more guards who could potentially kill her. I mean, I completed the objective, why should more soldiers try to stop her? Also, the infinite wave of soldiers continues to pour into the room. My first time doing this, I thought if I just kept killing them they would stop, but they never do. The only way to stop them is that you need to open this blast door, go inside and close the door. Only then will these never ending soldiers not follow you in. However, you must still deal with the final ones in this area so you can get to the lift. I'm sorry Rare, but there was no need to be this cruel, as I almost gave up on this game because of not knowing this. Or how about the train level on 00 Agent mode? Now I don't mind trying to get through each carriage, fighting tougher enemies, I mean it's 00 Agent, right? It's just that when I made it to the end, where Bond must shoot Umrov, this is where the problem lies. I managed to shoot him, and this meant that Trevelyan and Xenia immediately tried to escape. Bond has 1 minute to laser through the floor, so you need to be quick. Now whilst this is happening, Natalia is trying to find out where Yanis' secret base is and what Boris's password is also. No matter how quick I was, Natalia always cracks the password with 4 seconds to spare, and so when you try to escape the train, Natalia ends up getting blown up anyway. I couldn't understand what I was doing wrong, and again Rare really dropped the ball on this one by making this stage on the highest difficulty extremely cryptic. After some research I did online, apparently when you shoot Umrov you must keep firing in order to hit Xenia, who is behind him. This will delay Alec and Xenia's escape, as Xenia will say she has been hit. This also means that the countdown won't begin yet and you have a bit more precious time to laser through the floor. Once you do this, Natalia will find the location of the base and discover Boris's password much quicker, meaning you will have plenty of time to leave the train. I'm sorry, but this is like moving the goalposts at the final hurdle. I completed the objectives fair and square, and throwing in this last minute was not fun and extremely unfair. Despite this game being very slow compared to much later first person shooters, the game is very addictive, immersive, and there are often multiple ways to complete a mission. Sometimes stealth is useful, but some stages are easier if Bond tries to rush through. Also, the streets level was one I enjoyed, as I was finding out on 00 Agent the tanky drive is practically useless and would not only make Bond a sitting duck, but would also stop at a certain point for absolutely no reason at all, making me vulnerable. So instead I ran and strafed my way through the rest of the stage, avoiding those rocket launchers, welding baddies, and laughing as I made it to the exit. Again, most problems I had with this game was that I was trying to play it like Doom, Turok, or even Quake. Doing it this way just makes the game harder, and also it makes objectives on tougher missions difficult to achieve, very unattainable, as you may inadvertently shoot a character you're not supposed to, get spotted by security cameras, or shoot a key item that you need. Some say that this game is extremely cruel and unfair because of this. I will say that once you truly learn to play Goldeneye, then it does get easier and more enjoyable. One of the best examples of this comes on the water cavern stage on 00 Agent. One of the objectives is that Bond needs to use the radio to contact Jack Wade, however it is heavily guarded by soldiers, one of which uses grenades. If you or they destroy the radio, then the mission cannot be completed, so you need to really use your noggin and work out how to lure the guards away from the room and the radio, or take them out carefully. Bear in mind there are also explosive barrels in the room which will blow up the equipment anyway, so it is only with repeated attempts will you learn the rhythm of each level and the most effective ways of beating them. Graphics and presentation. Goldeneye's graphics are extremely epic and a huge amount of attention to detail has gone into the construction of each individual level. Developers Rare were granted access to the set of the movie and were able to take a lot of photos in order to try and replicate certain locations from the movie. So when you see Boris going out for a cigarette from the bunker in 7 Eye in the movie, then you will see the location in the game. It just gives this huge deal of authenticity that other movie licensed games just didn't do at the time. Rare even put in a few other missions to expand the game a little more. At the start of the game it lets you play out a mission to show you how Bond made his way to the dam to bungee jump off it. Also Rare changed the story by having him visit 7 Eye twice and also infiltrating a missile silo with the view to blowing it up. I'm not going to say that the graphical style has aged well, but once you start playing the game, it's so good that this never becomes a problem. All the enemy soldiers you encounter throughout, however, have the Rare team's face mapped on them, and they react very well whenever they are shot. This was the first FPS to include limb shots where you could shoot a specific body part and see the enemy struggle. I do like the fact that you don't always face the same type of guards, and that as you progress further throughout the game you encounter more relentlessly tougher soldiers with berets and sunglasses who are highly accurate. And although sometimes I do disagree that they shouldn't always spawn infinitely, it's good that on some levels they do this because it keeps you on your toes. You will encounter certain key characters from the movie such as Xenia Onatop, Valentin Zukovsky, Boris Grushenko, Natalia Simeonova and Alec Trevelyan, and although the actors' likeness have been mapped onto each one, they still look a little blocky by today's standards. However, every gun Bond fires, every explosion, every gadget looks incredible, making this one incredibly detailed looking game. Because of these touches it just makes you feel like you are James Bond, and I've yet to play another movie licensed game of this calibre. The draw distance, which can make some first person shooters harder to see what's ahead, is much better in this game. I loved how when Bond is in 7 Eye he can shoot enemies in the distance using the sniper rifle, and you can see a lot more of the level. This can give the game an element of strategy and help with the stealth aspect of the game. I suppose I'd better touch on the multiplayer deathmatch aspect of the game. Now, this is one of Goldeneye's most popular features and allows you to play up to 3 other people. However, this comes at a cost of slowing down the action, as again the game is super ambitious, and although it can run 4 players, it's difficult to be able to see too clearly when this happens. However, on the plus side you do get a range of different deathmatch options to use and characters from the Bond universe to play as. Also, some levels such as the Cradle were omitted from deathmatch because graphically the N64 wouldn't be able to handle such large levels, which is kind of understandable really. Still, for what it is, deathmatch is a lot of fun, and being able to run around most of the levels hunting down your friends makes this a great game to bring out at parties. It's a shame that the N64 expansion pack wasn't in existence at the time of Goldeneye's development, as I'm sure many of the problems encountered with slowdown could have been solved. Still, the problems are not major and only happen occasionally and don't detract from how awesome it looks or plays. This game was the first of its kind, and it's clear to me that so much went into making it look incredible that little slowdown is a small price to pay for a game with so much going for it. From the familiar opening sounds of the James Bond theme and the title sequence to the antenna cradle, Rare have managed to take the simple Bond tune and craft different and unique tracks which easily fit the aesthetics of each level. It's clear to me that a lot of work and thought has gone into making this sound like you are in a Bond movie. I like how each level's music is kind of an indicator of the type of level Bond must go through. For example, 7 Eye's themes where Bond is outside has this dark, haunting, atmospheric feel, which encouraged me to use stealth, which is in stark contrast to the silo where you must essentially go in almost all guns blazing with the track sounding a sense of urgency, in which you must try and complete the level and its objectives within the time limit. It's this kind of style that gives each level its own individual identity. For me personally, no 2 levels have the same musical feel, even though Bond visits 7 Eye and the bunker twice. The Cube and Jungle level itself, however, has almost no music on it, which I thought was a good move, as the player really has to concentrate on taking out the tricky drone guns and soldiers. However, as soon as Bond starts to cross the bridge here, then this loud, menacing music starts to play, and this only subsides once Xenia Onatop has been defeated by either yourself or Natalia. Out of all the levels' music, I really like the Facility theme mainly because it sounds so much like the music used in the Goldeneye movie. The frigate stage music also really got me pumped up and motivated to try and save all the hostages and disarm the bombs on board. I really can't fault the awesome music in this game. Even the antenna cradle just evokes so much tension as you rush around not only trying to defeat Trevelyan, his infinite spawning soldiers, but you must also try and destroy the antenna console to stop the Goldeneye from firing a devastating last blast. As for the sound effects, again I have to say they are first rate. I mean, everything you would expect from a typical James Bond movie is here, from loud gunshots, devastating explosions and the sounds of pain and anguish as you plough through waves of soldiers, either from a distance or at close range. If Bond himself takes damage, you hear him gasping for breath and he suffers knockback, which adds to the stress of trying to get through a particularly tough stage. There are occasions when blowing up enemies and objects become a lot of fun. One of the best explosions for me comes towards the end of the water caverns level. After Bond has successfully used the radio to contact Jack Wade, he can then shoot out the explosive barrels if he chooses, which really relieves a lot of stress for me. Although this game mainly has Bond complete his missions on foot, he can get his hands on a tank in the runway and streets levels, and not only does it look cool, but the sound of blasting tank shells at the enemies and blowing them up is so satisfying and makes this game even more of a joy to play and experience. In-game story and cutscenes. The game's story is told primarily through written briefings which occur before each mission starts and also whenever Bond interacts with other characters on certain missions. You are given a general overview first of what has happened in the background section, and then you get your actual orders from M, who tells you what you need to do, and occasionally some hints as to approach the mission. Next up, Q will tell you how to use specific gadgets that have been assigned to you, and if there is anything additional you will need to collect in each stage for him. Lastly, Moneypenny will add her double entendres before the mission begins. In order to play out and advance the story, however, certain levels require Bond to speak to key individuals such as Dr. Doak in the facility, Natalia Simeonova, whom Bond meets in Severnaya, Valentin Zukovsky, and also the leader of Yanis Alec Trevelyan, your arch nemesis. Killing these people or allowing them to get shot in some instances will fail the mission for Bond, as you need them to perform a certain task. For example, on the streets level on 00 Agent, you need to find Valentin Zukovsky to delay Umrov, who's kidnapped Natalia. If you kill him, then the mission is an automatic fail. The same thing occurs if you try and kill Boris Grushenko on the control stage. Although he pulls a gun out of Bond, if you kill him, Natalia will refuse to help you because of this, and the mission again is a failure. This was a good move in my opinion in the long run because it gives the NPCs more personality, so by complying with these rules it means that the story can unfold further. Of course, certain scenes had to be changed to appease the video game's ratings board. One example of this is when Bond is interrogated at the start of the Archives mission. Now in the movie, James and Natalia are questioned by Defence Minister Dmitry Mishkin in his office. After some back and forth aggression between them, General Umrov barges in and shoots Mishkin and gives the weapon back to Bond. In the game, however, Bond is interrogated by two Russian guards, and Umrov is nowhere to be seen. On both Secret and 00 Agent modes, Bond must scour the level searching for Mishkin, who will give you the black box showing evidence that Umrov stole the Goldeneye. Also, Natalia is being held at gunpoint in one of the offices upstairs. Once all objectives have been completed and Bond has made his way to the finish point to end the level, a brief cutscene occurs showing Bond performing different actions, like adjusting his sleeves, shooting baddies, adjusting his tie, or just walking to the exit whilst the vehicle blows up in the background. If you don't see a cutscene, then this generally means that you have forgotten to do an objective and must do the mission again. Needless to say, you always know what you have to do, as it does follow the film for the most part, but also deviates from the script at certain points. Controls. Now this is where Goldeneye really shines. The controls really suit the N64's control pad. The current setup for me is just right. Rare, however, have tried to cater for those gamers who feel the default control style might not suit them, and there's a few different ones that players can select, all named after famous Bond girls. For example, the default setting is called Honey, after Honey Rider. The second is called Solitaire, etc. Although you can't customise the controls yourself, it is possible to be able to use two controllers to play Goldeneye, which I've seen many speedrunners use. It's all about finding which control style works best for you. The standard controllers are: the control stick moves Bond left-right throughout each level and forward and back. L and R allows Bond to aim at targets using a crosshair. The start button pauses the game and allows Bond to check what objectives he has completed and what ones are left. Pressing button A cycles through the weapons and gadgets Bond has in his possession. The Z trigger underneath the pad fires Bond's current weapon or uses a gadget. The yellow C buttons allow Bond to look up, down, left and right when he is standing still. When Bond is moving, he can use the yellow left and right C buttons to strafe, allowing him to avoid certain attacks, enemies and projectiles. B is the action button and is used to open doors or use consoles. So it really is the type of game that anyone can instantly pick up and play. I don't remember myself or anyone I know having to change the control type when playing Goldeneye, so the default settings seem to suit almost everybody. There is one complaint I do have with the game, and that's the auto aim. Occasionally when an enemy soldier is near, and provided Bond has the chosen weapon that he wants to use out, this occasionally auto locks onto a baddie. Now this seems to work fine when there are a few baddies around, but sometimes the aim doesn't always work, and this means that I would lose health and get shot. I don't know why sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. My only guess is that maybe Rare were trying to go for a more realistic experience, because in real life you can't always lock onto enemies using a gun, so you can't become too reliant on this feature either. In fact, the only way to get through most missions is to get used to manually aiming for baddies, because this way you will have a better likelihood of hitting what you are aiming for. It does get much harder to control Bond, however, when there are a lot of soldiers on screen. When this happens again, the frame rate drops dramatically, and if Bond gets hit again, he gets knocked back and the gameplay slows right down. I've had occasions where I'm trying to fire back at soldiers, but because the game has gone so slow, the enemy just rinses my health, and this has forced me to throw in the towel and reset a few times, because there was just no way I would have had enough health to complete the rest of the mission. I find that this problem occurs on the infamous control level quite a lot. If too many guards are present, then this slows the game down and you can't fire accurately, meaning poor Natalia is a sitting duck. If I were making this game, I would have done away with most of the infinite guard spawns, as although it does make the game quite tense sometimes and exciting, it does come at the cost of slowing the game down, and this can just spoil the experience for me. Okay, overall, Goldeneye is still one of the best first-person shooters, with countless individuals still playing it to this day. The reason for this is because of the insane level of detail and features Rare have packed into the cartridge. There are often multiple ways to complete a mission, and despite the frame rate issues I had, it is also a lot of fun. Whether you want to sneak around and take out your enemies silently or run and gun, each mission allows you to do one or the other, or sometimes both in the same sort of mission. That's why this game is still held in such high esteem. In many ways you find your own strategy through the game, and with the variety and objectives, the game never feels like it's repeating itself. The frigate level is a prime example of devising your own strategies. You can either go above or below deck right away, and decide which order you're going to do some of the objectives in. It becomes challenging trying to save all the hostages and also dealing with enemies who can take you by surprise. Now I'm sure that many individuals out there may feel that 00 agent mode is impossible. For many years I thought so too. Believe me, I have been there more than you realise. I didn't think I had the capability to complete all the missions in the main campaign, but after many months of hard work I finally achieved it, and I'm really not the world's best games player either. However, Goldeneye seems to force you out of your comfort zone by making you get good with aiming and doing things you never thought you could. I died hundreds of times and completed some of the tougher missions with only a slither of health, and that's what I learned to love about this game. It is only after you finish it and realise that beating this game on the highest setting is a true gaming accomplishment. Even though some things were overkill, such as protecting Natalia and shooting Jenny on the train stage, and even that final section in the jungle, I still think this game is a true example of how to make a good first person shooter game. If you haven't played Goldeneye and think it's just another late 90s first person shooter that looks dated, then I seriously recommend picking it up for your N64 or indeed emulating it. It's more than just a game, it is a true James Bond experience that complements the movie. And so with that, I give Goldeneye 007 a James Bond-tastic 4.6 out of 5. This game will leave you shaken and a little stirred, and despite being 22 years old, it's still immensely playable, despite its graphics looking dated. But once you start playing, it's an adrenaline-fueled, addictive shooter that has so much packed into it, and really redefined how first-person shooters were made thereafter. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out another one of my Lucas Mackintosh reviews. If you're enjoying my content and would like to see more, then why not hit that subscribe button, because that way you'll be letting me know that you're enjoying my content and you'll be instantly notified every time I upload a new video. I'll have another review coming very soon. In the meantime, check out Twitter and my channel for all the latest happenings, all the latest videos and all the latest news from Dodge This, and I'll see you next time for another Lucas Mackintosh review. Take care.